Hey you guys, welcome back to Racket City Yardstead. So today we are going to do something a little bit different. We are trying multiple recipes that I've never made before, but my mom and I are doing a Whole30 for the month of February, and the Super Bowl is this month. So we need some Super Bowl friendly appetizers. And so I went scouring the internet and I found 4 recipes that I think sound really fantastic. We're going to make all of those today. I think I've convinced my mom to come out and be on camera and do a little bit of a taste test with me at the end so that we can see what we think of all of them and give you our honest opinion. So we're going to make a spinach artichoke dip, a buffalo cauliflower, a 7-layer dip, and then finally we're going to make a sweet and sour chicken wing. We're also going to kind of have a little bit of a bonus recipe in here and make some Whole30 friendly ranch dressing because we need a dip for our buffalo cauliflower, right? And then also it calls for some ranch in the 7-layer dip. The first thing I need to do is get my chicken wings in the oven because they say they're going to bake at 400 for about 40 minutes. So I think they're going to take the longest of everything. And so I want to get those going. So let's get to cooking. So the wings are really simple. For the wing part itself, it says to put them on a parchment paper lined baking sheet, toss them with some salt, cook them for 40 minutes, flipping partway through. So you don't get much simpler than that, I don't think. I went and washed my hands all up, so now let's salt our chicken wings. I think I'm just going to flip them rather than toss. I can't tell. Set my salt down and use my other hand so I don't have to wash them an extra time. Y'all, I am not ambidextrous. Now these wings are ready to go in the oven. The thing that's really going to give us the flavor for these wings and make them over the top amazing is the sauce that we're going to make for them. So into the oven for 40 minutes. Now that our chicken is in the oven, I've added my ground beef to a skillet. The recipe for the 7-layer dip calls for a pound of whatever ground meat you want. I do not have 1-pound packages. I have 1 1/3 pound packages. And so I'm just going with it. I don't think a little bit of extra meat is going to be a problem. And then we want 2.5 tablespoons of taco seasoning. You want a Whole30 compliant taco seasoning. I actually have a seasoning from Penzeys called Arizona Dreaming. I think it's maybe more of a chili seasoning, but I think it'll work really well for this. So that's what I'm going to go with. And I will look and link some Whole30 friendly taco seasonings below, but that's just what I'm choosing to use. So we're just going to get this all cooked up and browned. I do want to add some salt because that seasoning does not have salt. So once our taco meat is fully cooked, we'll be able to make our ranch dressing and assemble our 7-layer dip. Our beef is done, so on to the ranch dressing. I am going to use about a cup of mayonnaise, I think, because we need it for 2 different recipes. So I'm just eyeballing, but I will link a more specific recipe below. I am using Silk unsweetened almond milk here, and I'm going to add just a couple of tablespoons to help get it nice and thin. Not too thin because we're going to use it for a dip, but we want it to be thinner than mayonnaise. So some garlic powder, some onion powder. You guys know me, I measure with my heart. I have dried chives here. I'm just gonna drop the rest of those in there. Some parsley flakes. And finally, some dill. Oh, I have to tell you guys, I used the last of my freeze-dried dill the other day. I was so sad. I'm gonna have to grow a bunch of it this year. But that's everything really we need, except for some salt and pepper. We might want to add a little bit of an acidic element to it, but I want to give it a try. I've traditionally made more of a dump style ranch where you add all of the mayonnaise ingredients into it along with the flavors. But when I went to the store today, the eggs were so expensive that I think it was actually cheaper to buy the pre-made mayo. That's good. It's plenty salty, but I think it needs a little bit of acidity. So we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice to it. This will also help with the thinning. Yeah, this is really good. And the longer it sits, the more those flavors will meld and it'll be fantastic. So the next thing I need to do is mix half a cup of this ranch with our Kite Hill cream cheese. If you don't need to be dairy free, you could just use regular cream cheese. You could use whatever ranch you want, but for this Whole30 recipe, we've got specific ingredients. This is interesting. So the ingredients on this are almond milk, salt, rowan berry fruit extract, enzyme, xanthan gum, guar gum, cultures, and lactic acid. I've actually never tried this before, so we'll see. But we are going to mix all of this cream cheese with half a cup of that. It smells good. It smells like cream cheese. I am just going to use this measuring cup here and dump our cream cheese into it. Gonna find a half cup measure. And measure out some ranch. Right. So we just need to mix those together along with a tablespoon of that taco seasoning. Just gonna eyeball that and get this all mixed together. The cream cheese mixes nicely. So this is ready and we can assemble our taco dip now. Let's assemble our 7-layer dip. So we're starting with our cream cheese, mayonnaise, taco seasoning mixture. We just want to get this all nice and spread out into an even layer on the bottom. The next thing we want to add is our ground meat layer. The extra third of a pound of meat here was not a problem in this dip. I kind of wondered if maybe it would be a little bit too much, but we were not complaining about having a little bit of extra meat. So if you have 1 1/3 pound ground beef packages, it works just fine. The next thing we're going to add is our guacamole. Now, this is an area where I decided to take a shortcut because I buy guacamole at Sam's Club and it's really economical. It's good guacamole. The ingredients are nice and clean. And so I just figure I want to use conveniences where it's possible. You know, when you're doing a Whole30, you are doing a lot of cooking from scratch. And so it's nice to take advantage of some conveniences here and there. And this guacamole is one of those places where I decided to do that. It did take more than one of these packages of guacamole. The recipe calls for 2 cups, and I don't think these baggies of guacamole are a full 2 cups. So I did have to open a second one in order to fully cover my layer here. The next layer we're going to add here is salsa. The recipe calls for a picante sauce. I'm just using my home canned salsa that's veggies from my garden. It's kind of hard to tell here, but my homemade salsa is a little bit runny. And so I take the time to kind of drain some of the liquid off and just get the more chunky bits. But use your favorite salsa here. The big thing is don't get something with sugar, don't get something with corn or beans in it. It needs to be, you know, vegetables basically. The lettuce is another area where I decided to take a shortcut on this. I just bought a bag of pre-shredded iceberg lettuce because why chop it up myself if I could buy it already chopped? It's already quite a bit of work. So, you know, if you want to chop lettuce, go ahead. But I figured where there is a viable shortcut, I was going to take it. So I'm deviating from the recipe a little bit here. The next layer it calls for is pico de gallo. That just seemed a little bit like overkill to me when you already had a salsa in there. And so instead, I opted for chopping up some cilantro and green onions just to add that fresh herby flavor. But you know, you do what you want to do. If you like the idea of the fresh pico de gallo, then by all means add it to the top. Next, we're going to add some olives on here. I just cut my olives in half, but you could slice them or just buy a jar of already sliced olives. You know, I I guess I didn't take the shortcut here. I went ahead and bought whole olives and cut them myself, but you could absolutely buy sliced olives. The final thing we're going to add to our dip is jalapenos. The recipe calls for fresh jalapenos sliced up. I, again, have stuff that I have preserved from my own garden. In this case, I have pickled jalapenos. And so I went ahead and used those rather than buy some fresh jalapenos. And I thought it tasted really good. We really enjoyed it. And I also like that my home pickled jalapenos have some ripe ones that are red because I think it's really pretty on the dip. My microphone died, but I still wanted to show you guys this clip because look how pretty it is where you can see all the layers. I still hadn't realized my microphone died at this point, but we're making our cauliflower, and so I wanted to show you. So we're dumping a beaten egg into that bag. We're going to add our cauliflower florets into it and just mix it all up to get the cauliflower florets nice and coated in the egg. This is going to help our breading mixture stick to the cauliflower. So I will say it did take quite a while to get the cauliflower well coated in this bag. I don't know if there's a better method, but it did work well. It just took a couple of minutes to get it all coated well. So next we're going to add in our breading mixture. This is cashew flour. The recipe called for almond, but I don't handle it well. Garlic powder and some salt. I'll link the recipe below so you guys can see the exact amounts, but we just dump that in the bag and then we toss it all together to get the cauliflower coated. Now that we've got our cauliflower all tossed up and coated, we're going to put it into our air fryer. The recipe calls for cooking this at 350 for 30 minutes in the air fryer. Honestly, that was a little bit too long for me and I didn't catch it. So they were a little more cooked than I wanted, but still good. Let's get the sauce going for our wings. I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I've got a 1/4 cup each cilantro and chives, both washed. We're gonna add about a tablespoon, maybe a little more, of lime juice, about a tablespoon of avocado oil, oh, my lid just broke off, a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, and a 1/4 cup of coconut aminos. If you are not doing Whole30, the recipe also calls for a tablespoon of honey, so you could add that as well. And if you just wanted to make these wings and you had no interest in Whole30 or paleo or anything, soy sauce would work in place of the coconut aminos. So don't write it off just because it's a different ingredient than you're used to. There's always a substitution to be made. So I need to turn that down. That's literally all we needed to do. So now it's gonna go into a pot and simmer until it reduces by about half. And then we'll be able to brush it onto our chicken wings. All right, you guys, it's time for our last recipe. So I have been soaking some cashew pieces for a couple of hours and I just strained them and put them into my high-speed blender. It calls for 1.5 cups of cashews. I buy cashew pieces through Azure Standard because that's the most economical way to buy cashews. So to this, we need to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm gonna eyeball it. 1, 2, 3. We need 2/3 cup of warm water, 1/3 cup of avocado oil, a 1/4 cup nutritional yeast. This is not something I've worked with before, so I'm really curious about this. But it's supposed to have kind of a Parmesan cheese flavor, and so it's supposed to help mimic the cheese flavor in the dip. We'll see what we think. Now we need some onion powder. Calls for 1.5 teaspoons each of onion powder and garlic powder. Garlic powder. About a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. The last thing we need is 1 1/4 teaspoon salt. So here we go. Now we're gonna blend this all up until it's nice and creamy. It looks nice and creamy to me. I don't know. We'll see, you guys. Okay, so now we need to get our veggies going. I've got some veggies prepped here for our spinach artichoke dip. So the first thing I need to do is add 1 medium minced yellow onion. You want to saute this, it says, for about 3 to 5 minutes until they have started to soften. So I'm going to let that sit there and soften, give it a stir every minute or so, and I'm going to work on chopping my artichoke hearts up. So now we're going to add 3 cloves of garlic and let these cook for just about a minute. You want to be really careful with the garlic so it doesn't burn. It starts to get bitter if it burns. Okay, so now it's time to start adding in our spinach. I have about 12 ounces of rough chopped spinach here. And it says to add it a little bit at a time. Let it wilt down, add some more. I'm trying to think what the best way to do this is. I am definitely cooking. You know what? It's all going to fit in that. So I'm going to just do it. This is probably a larger container than I needed for this dip, but I figured it could go in the oven and then it would save me a dish. So I just went with my brazier for this dish. It says this should take about 3 minutes for the spinach to wilt down. I do want to add a little bit of salt. That'll help release the moisture. So now that that's all wilted down, we are going to add our artichokes. I'll be honest with you, the artichokes that I got came in smaller containers than what it called for, but 2 of them made more than what the recipe called for. But we really love artichokes, so I just figured it wouldn't hurt to have extra. The artichokes are just rough chopped, drained, rough chopped artichokes. Not marinated artichokes though, just the ones in the salt brine. So I am going to add some pepper to this. It called for pepper, salt and pepper to taste basically. So we will see what it tastes like when it's done. And all the ingredients are in here. So now is the part I'm nervous about, you guys. We're going to add this cashew cream sauce to our spinach and artichokes. If you are new here, I have an induction cooktop, so I just turn my burner off and that's good enough, but it does call for removing it from the heat. So you have a regular gas or electric stove, make sure you pull your pan off the burner. Stir this all together. It looks really nice. I hope it's good. I'm not 100% sold on this whole cashews in place of cheese thing, but we're doing this Whole30 and I have been off of cheese longer than that and feeling better without dairy. So I really want this to work. I am going to grab a spoon to give this a taste and see if it needs any more salt or pepper. Nope, I think it's good. And actually, it's really good. So I'm excited about this. I'll be interested to see once it's fully warm. This needs to go into an oven that's preheated to 350 for 10, I think it's a 10 to 15 minutes. just until it's nice and bubbly and heated through. You guys, I need to be honest with you about something. We're still gonna finish them because we'll get an idea of the flavor, but the second 20-minute timer on my chicken wings after I flip them, I must not have pressed start and it just shut off, and I left them in the oven for way too long. So they are very crispy and kind of dried out. But I still want to put the sauce on them and see how they taste. And, you know, just don't be me. Follow the chicken wing recipe if the glaze is good. So I'm going to give you a peek at what those look like, and then we're going to go ahead and glaze them. So our glaze is all cooked down nice and thick. I'll just brush this on. I did give it a taste. It's delicious. So at least the glaze is a winner, even if I overcooked the chicken. I think I mentioned at the beginning here that this is kind of a new thing for me. I've never made this many new recipes all at once, but I wanted us to have options for the Super Bowl. And I didn't necessarily want to be trying new things like day of, I guess. But sometimes we make mistakes in the kitchen, and it's okay. The dip is in the oven, and so the last thing I really need to do here is make some buffalo sauce for our cauliflower buffalo. So I'm using ghee, and there are some Whole30 compliant hot sauces out there. This is actually homemade hot sauce that I made from peppers in my garden. And all of those ingredients were acceptable, so I am just using my own hot sauce. And I just need to melt this down. Mix it together. So once this is done, I am going to toss our cauliflower in it. I will tell you, the cauliflower looks kind of burnt to me. I don't know if that's the flour I chose to use. I haven't tasted it yet, so it might not taste burnt. It might just get really dark. But my guess is I'm going to want to cut this back on time. Probably, goodness, by like a good 10 minutes. But we'll get it sauced up. We'll try it with the ranch that we made, and we'll see what we think. All right, you guys, it's all done. There were some mishaps. There were some tweaks that need to be made. But overall, I think these are good options to start with. So this is my mom, Susan. You guys have never officially met her. She's been in a couple of videos kind of here and there. So what do you want to start with? The buffalo? Yeah. So the buffalo cauliflower. Wait a minute.
That was not overdone.
Not overdone?
Mm.
Some of it is overdone. And I think I would maybe cut back the cooking time on it. But it does look nice, and it's got a nice kind of crunchy coating on it. Dip it in the ranch I made. It doesn't taste burnt. So maybe that's just what happens to
that flour.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Do you like those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very good.
Because we're Whole30, we're doing peppers and celery for our dipping elements. So you can pick whatever you want. Let's do the artichoke dip. I think a pepper might work better. Oh, it thickened up really nicely.
It's very good.
Yeah. I had a little taste for like salt and pepper before I put it in the oven.
Don't you think it's good? Yummy.
Yeah. I was nervous about this one, but that's yummy.
Very good. Reminds me of the other stuff we make that has different ingredients in it. It still tastes a little bit like that.
Okay. What do you want for the 7-layer dip?
I might need this, you think?
Okay.
You want to just set some on it?
That's what I thought might be the easiest.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Well, I was going to spread it out, you know,
Okay.
like, there you go. Are you missing the refried beans at all?
I could, no.
You could eat this. Yeah, I think it's really good. I didn't know what I would think of that Kite Hill almond milk cream cheese, but it's really good.
It is. Good Super Bowl fare.
Okay, the chicken wings. You guys know already we are try a bigger one because maybe it's less underdone. We're trying these for the sauce that's on them more than the wings themselves because I overcooked them. But
I forgot this stuff.
I forgot
to go.
Yes, that's what I forgot.
Good.
But the sauce really has like a tanginess to it.
Very good.
Yeah.
I look like a little kid, but
No, you don't. I would make these again for sure. I would just make sure I press start on the timer because the chicken's overdone, but that's my fault, not the recipe's fault.
I am one of the ones that reaps the benefits of Sarah's videos when she's cooking.
So do you have a favorite, do you think?
These two are my favorite.
So this, yeah, that just came out of the oven. Yeah. So the 7-layer dip and the artichoke dip.
But this is the cauliflower too.
Yeah.
You know, like wings, it's hard to pick.
Okay.
They're all good.
So we like them all, even though I had a few little mishaps here. So thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. I hope that if you are doing a Whole30, you'll give one of these a try because they're all really good. Just if you're going to make the cauliflower in the air fryer, maybe start checking on it about 20 minutes in so that it doesn't get overdone. Because I do think some of them are a little bit overdone. But otherwise, I think this would be a fantastic Super Bowl spread. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.